20th century was only just beginning when the Russian Empire set out to modernize its navy, and by late 1911 that effort produced an unusual and forward-looking vessel, a salvaging ship built specifically to recover disabled submarines from the ocean's depths. Inspired by the German SMS Vulcan, Russian engineers reworked the design to produce a double-hulled salvage ship that combined heavy lifting capability with onboard workshops and specialized gear for deep-water operations. Commissioned into service before the First World War, the ship entered a life that would stretch across regimes and centuries, a testament to practical design and continual refit. Komuna began her service under the Russian Empire, survived the Revolution and Civil War to serve the Soviet Navy, and later operated under the flag of the Russian Federation. Over more than 100 years, she has been refitted for new technologies, her hull strengthened, her cranes and winches updated, and her onboard workshops modernized so she could meet changing salvage challenges. She operated in the freezing waters of the Baltic during the siege of Leningrad, where naval logistics and recovery work were both dangerous and vital, and in later decades she took part in rescue and salvage missions in the Atlantic and beyond. Despite her age, she has carried out some of the most demanding assignments assigned to Russian naval support vessels, including high-profile and sensitive recoveries in the Black Sea. What makes Komuna remarkable is not just her age, but her adaptability. She evolved from a specialist of early 20th century technology into a platform capable of integrating modern diving systems, remotely operated vehicles, and precision lifting equipment. Her longevity reflects ongoing maintenance, intermittent overhauls, and the practical decision by successive navies to preserve a ship that continued to fill a unique capability gap. Crews who served aboard her passed down institutional knowledge about salvage procedures, emergency submarine rescue protocols, and the peculiarities of operating an older but robust hull in contemporary contexts. That continuity of human expertise has been as important as steel and rivets in keeping her operational. Through more than a century of service, Komuna has seen the arc of naval history. Pre-dreadnought era ports, 2 world wars, Cold War patrols, and 21st century crises. She has been deployed in peacetime disaster response, wartime salvage, and technically demanding retrievals of sensitive materials from sunken warships. Each mission added to a record of practical problem-solving, improvised rigging, careful surveys of wreck sites, coordination with divers and naval engineers, and reinforced why certain auxiliary ships are indispensable, even as main combatants change rapidly. Komuna's durability and continued operational role made her a symbol of institutional memory in a navy that itself has undergone dramatic transformations. Beyond the historical and technical story of Komuna, there is a way to explore the broader family of military machines she has accompanied through the decades. War Thunder, an online military vehicle combat game, recreates armored vehicles, aircraft, and naval vessels from the era when Komuna was built up to the present day. The game features more than 2,000 vehicles, tanks, helicopters, and ships, all modeled with careful attention to detail and dynamic damage systems that simulate how vehicles respond to hits, mechanical failure, and crew vulnerability. Players can reenact famous battles, experiment with alternate historical scenarios, and study how different vehicle classes interact under varied tactical conditions. The game's progression system and realistic vehicle behavior offer an immersive way to learn about period technology without leaving a browser or console. War Thunder is designed to be accessible. It supports cross-platform play between PC and multiple console generations, and its controls are usable with simple input devices. Many players fly complex aircraft using only mouse and keyboard, for example, so newcomers can focus on tactics and learning rather than hunting down specialized peripherals. The game includes a long list of battlefields recreated from historical maps and an active community that organizes events, cooperative missions, and scenario-based competitions. New players can start with beginner-friendly tutorials and progress to advanced mechanics such as crew management, module repair, and combined arms coordination. Komuna's origin traces back to an explicit decision by naval planners who wanted a dependable salvage capability. The design borrowed proven elements from SMS Vulcan while adding Russian adaptations to suit local shipyards and operational requirements. On December 30th, 1911, the Putilov Works received an order from the General Directorate of Shipbuilding, marking the formal start of the project. Months later, the construction contract was signed and the ship moved from blueprint to keel. Over the following decades, she would be repeatedly upgraded and repurposed in response to new demands. But those initial design choices, emphasizing a sturdy hull, ample deck space for gear, and dedicated salvage equipment, proved prescient, enabling a single vessel to remain useful across eras and missions. The submarine M200 was raised along with the M256, but the ship needed significant upgrades a decade later if she was to remain in service. Eventually, the salvage ship sailed from the Baltic to the Black Sea in 1967, and her central hold was refitted to house compact recovery submarines, smaller remote-controlled submersibles, and storage space for collected wreckage. That transformation cost 11 million rubles. Yet the time and resources invested in those improvements paid off handsomely after the turn of the century. Komuna was later refurbished to serve as a deep submergence rescue vehicle mothership. She received a first-generation 45-ton Project 1837 submersible, capable of diving to 500 meters and rescuing up to 20 submariners at a time. Equipped with a Type AS-6 Poisk II submersible, Komuna set a new record in December 1974 by reaching a depth of 2,026 meters. The ship's effectiveness was proven again 3 years later when she was deployed to search for a Sukhoi Su-24 that crashed off the Caucasus and sank to 1,700 meters. In 1984, Komuna was slated for transfer to the Russian Academy of Sciences, but the plan was cancelled. The ship was intensely looted afterward and required a complete overhaul before returning to naval service. It was not until the summer of 1999 that Komuna received a new designation as a rescue ship rather than a salvage ship. As Project 1837 submersibles were retired, Komuna was outfitted with the Project 1855 Priz-class DSRV AS-28, which remains with her today. The newer submersible offered similar performance with the notable exception of being able to dive twice as deep. It also features 2 manipulator arms for performing tasks on the seafloor. Remotely operated vehicles can be hosted and operated from the ship as well. After the turn of the millennium, Komuna received further upgrades, including a British Pantera Plus rescue submersible capable of operations down to about 1,000 meters. As of 2012, she was assigned to the detachment of rescue vessels based at Sevastopol, continuing to provide a unique capability for deep-sea work and emergency response. Casual observers often overlook naval auxiliaries, yet in times of war they quickly rise to prominence when their skills are needed. As independent analyst Hy Sutton noted, salvage ships are so obscure that they are often forgotten in popular fleet lists. When the guided missile cruiser Moskva was sunk in April 2022 while being towed back to port on the Crimean coast, Komuna was one of the vessels that responded. There are no official reports detailing precisely what the Moskva was carrying, but sensitive materials, classified items, weapons, and communication systems are high priorities for immediate recovery efforts, and the sinking has been viewed as one of the most prominent naval losses in combat in decades. Sutton suggests that any salvage attempt would likely involve the veteran Komuna, whose modern hardware can reach the wreckage. However, Moskva sank largely intact and her size makes full recovery highly impractical. In the meantime, Komuna has been used to retrieve important materials that foreign powers might target and to provide area surveillance given her proximity to the wreck site. Throughout her long career, the rescue ship has raised more than 150 vessels, including submarines and other types of ships. At 110 years old, she is far from obsolete. Continual refits, the integration of modern submersibles and ROVs, and the retention of seasoned crews have allowed Komuna to remain a capable and valued asset in complex salvage and rescue operations. Despite the numerous upgrades she has received over more than a century of service, her basic hull and overall structure remain largely unchanged. A physical link between eras that stretches from the final years of the Russian Empire through the Soviet period and into the present-day Russian Federation. Those successive refits have focused less on altering her bones than on modernizing her capabilities, installing new cranes and winches, adding modern diving systems, integrating remotely operated vehicles, and updated navigation and communication suites, so she can meet contemporary salvage and rescue requirements without losing the rugged reliability that first earned her a place in the fleet. Continuous maintenance, periodic overhauls, and careful modernization programs have kept her seaworthy and mission-capable. Engineers have strengthened bulkheads, replaced machinery where necessary, rewired control systems, and adapted deck spaces to carry modular equipment packages, which has allowed crews to swap in specialized gear for deep recovery, scientific support, or emergency responses needed. Her operational history reinforces why navies sometimes prefer to preserve and upgrade an older platform rather than build a replacement from scratch. She carries institutional knowledge in the form of trained sailors and technicians familiar with her idiosyncrasies, and her long service record means many salvage techniques and emergency procedures were developed and refined aboard her hull. Symbolically, she occupies a strange place in naval consciousness. To some, she is an elegant old lady, a vessel whose longevity and continued utility command respect, while to others she represents obsolescence and risk, the sort of aging platform that invites debate over safety and cost-effectiveness. As High Sutton observed, whether you see her as an elegant old lady or an out-of-date accident waiting to happen, she is certainly one of the more interesting ships afloat today, a judgment that captures both admiration and unease. Practically speaking, her endurance has translated into real operational value. She has been called on for complex deep-water recoveries, rapid responses to accidental sinkings, sensitive material retrievals, and cooperative missions with civilian scientific teams, tasks that require not only hardware, but experienced crews and tried procedures. Even as new technologies emerge, her role as a flexible mothership for submersibles and ROVs remains relevant. She can host a range of assets, serve as a command and control hub during salvage operations, and act as an on-site repair and staging platform, functions that are difficult to replicate with single-purpose vessels. Debates about whether to retire or retain ships like her hinge on budget, strategic needs, and risk assessments, but the pragmatic outcome in her case has been continued investment. Periodic upgrades have extended her operational life and kept her available for missions where speed, proximity, and a tested platform matter more than cutting-edge stealth or offensive power. In short, her unchanged core combined with adaptive modernization has allowed a ship built in the early 20th century to remain a relevant, if unconventional, asset in 21st century naval operations.